Amidst epidemic, Haze blankets several regions in China as red alerts emerge. Tens of thousands in Shangqiu Protests, authorities implement martial law, seal highways overnight. Is the CCP most afraid of a new generation? Student protests erupt in Changsha. Historically fastest entry by a Chinese national into the United States. Is it really that simple? US-China economic decoupling is not so easy. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Amidst epidemic, Haze blankets several regions in China as red alerts emerge. The epidemic situation in China continues to escalate, with a sharp increase in the number of deaths in various places, and crematoriums are crowded with people. Simultaneously, many provinces and cities in China are engulfed in haze, with red alerts being issued in numerous areas. In some places, visibility has dropped to less than 20 meters, accompanied by a lingering, unpleasant odor in the air. On the morning of December 29, the CCP's Central Meteorological Observatory issued a top-level red alert for dense fog, predicting it in Hebei, Shandong, Henan, Anhui, Jiangsu, Shanghai, Zhejiang, and Chongqing until noon. Visibility was under 200 meters in several areas, dropping below 50 meters in parts of southeastern Hebei, central and western Shandong, northern and southeastern Jiangsu, and northern Anhui. At 8 a.m., the Central Meteorological Bureau called for a Level 3 emergency response to the dense fog, implementing traffic safety actions like stopping flights, closing highways temporarily, and halting ferry services. Internet users from various areas also reported experiencing severe haze conditions, with visibility in some locations dropping to less than 20 meters, making it difficult for them to even locate the traffic lights. They expressed that it felt like being in a horror movie. Some reported that there was a particularly strange smell in the air, which was very uncomfortable. Back in 2019, when the Wuhan epidemic first emerged, there was also intense hazy weather. At the end of last year and the start of this year, when the CCP unexpectedly relaxed epidemic controls, the situation exploded across the country. Hospitals were overrun, crematoriums were operating non-stop, burning bodies 24 hours a day, and haze enveloped many areas. Recently, the epidemic in China has surged anew. People in Beijing, Shanghai, Henan, Anhui, Shandong, and other areas have reported to NTD television that there have been many recent deaths, and crematoriums are overwhelmed again. However, these incidents are being concealed by the authorities, remain unreported by the media, and hospitals are instructed not to attribute these deaths to the new coronavirus, but rather to influenza, mycoplasma pneumonia, and so on. Tens of thousands in Shangqiu Protests, authorities implement martial law, seal highways overnight. Recently, a 14-year-old male student named Yang suddenly died inside a school in Ningling County, Shangqiu, Henan Province. He had visible injuries on his body, which led his family to question the cause of his death. The lack of detailed information from officials has sparked protests by tens of thousands of people. Reports emerged online that protesters assaulted the principal and stormed official buildings. On the morning of December 27, around 6:04 a.m., a patrol officer found Yang lying on the ground at Yueyuan School in Ningling County. The same day, the Ningling County government released a statement regarding the incident, stating that Yang's death was determined to be a fall from a height, based on 2 suicide notes believed to be his, and not a criminal matter. However, due to the noticeable injuries on Yang's body, the official statement failed to quell public anger, leading to even larger protests. On the 27th, thousands gathered at the school gates, and by the 28th, the number of protesters had swelled to tens of thousands. Videos circulating on the internet showed protesters surrounding a sedan and a person presumed to be a school official, who was attacked and forced to kneel by the crowd. The protesters then marched from the school to the county government offices, demanding justice for Yang. That evening, videos showed a significant police presence in Ningling County, setting up roadblocks, intercepting people, and enforcing a blockade under martial law conditions. The crowd eventually dispersed. That same night, Shangqiu residents shared a police text message warning against going to the school the next day, threatening consequences for those who disobeyed. Additionally, Shangqiu City closed some highways due to heavy fog, and shortly thereafter, shut down all highways under its jurisdiction. This led netizens to speculate that the closures were meant to prevent outsiders from joining the Ningling County protests. On international social media platforms, some netizens observed that the authorities seemed prepared for a harsh crackdown, quickly deeming the incident a suicide, a tactic commonly used by the Chinese Communist Party for maintaining stability. Moreover, many netizens expressed support for the Shangqiu Protesters, opining that every major protest in China could accelerate the downfall of the Chinese Communist Party, given the widespread unrest across the country, likened to sparks all over China, ready to catch fire. Is the CCP most afraid of a new generation? Student protests erupt in Changsha. On December 27, at a high school in Changsha, students protested against the school's decision to cut short the New Year's holiday. Online sources revealed a big character poster by a first-year high school student declaring, "The three-day New Year's holiday is not just a legal holiday, but also a well-established tradition. Rather than complain, we need democracy and freedom. We'll fight to the end to get our three-day break back." A second-year high school student wrote a protest letter against the reduction of the New Year's holiday, stating that since the new administration of their grade level began, they have sneakily cut holidays, increasingly worsening the students' exhaustion, which is intolerable. Hence, they vehemently protested, demanding an immediate announcement to the entire grade that the New Year's holiday would remain 3 days, with no retaliation against any student in any way. A video captured a large number of students on a balcony, energetically chanting, 3 days off, 3 days off. Finally, the students succeeded in their efforts. Xiao Lanjian, who previously worked in media in mainland China, commented on the overseas social media platform X, saying, "This represents one of the few instances of a successful collective protest action by students in China. It shows that the new generation of protesters is bolder and more courageous." The student community movement has evolved from the refined and implicit style of the white paper movement, adopting a totally new and more radical approach, and it has been successful. He further noted, "The Communist Party is apprehensive about the rise of a generation like this." Historically fastest entry by a Chinese national into the United States, is it really that simple? In pursuit of freedom, from last October to this point, the number of Chinese individuals making their way into the United States via line crossing has been consistently breaking records. Yet, for thousands, the path has been arduous and lengthy. They embark from South American countries like Ecuador, Colombia, and Panama, traversing tropical rainforests. After a grueling 2-month trek and spending upwards of 100,000 yuan, about $14,500, they finally crossed into the U.S. from the Mexican border. Many endure greater expenses, face perils, or become victims of fraud. But a recent, exceptionally fast case of line crossing has taken the Chinese internet by storm. It involves 2 mothers, each with a child, who, upon having their U.S. visas rejected, flew straight to Mexico and then to a border town. They scaled a wall into the U.S. and simply walked for 20 minutes to successfully gain entry. One mother, named Tiantan Mama, recounts her story. "Upon alighting from the bus, we were handed water and bread, and received with warm, welcoming smiles, 'Welcome to the United States.' We were deeply moved by the kindness." In the immigration facility, an officer even danced with her son to music. The kids were provided with 3 daily meals, extra snacks and fruit, non-stop cartoons, and the staff routinely offered showers. By Christmas, they were relocated to Los Angeles, California. The whole experience was so smooth and enjoyable that Tiantan Mama is still in disbelief, pondering, "Have I really just arrived in the US like this?" Additionally, Tiantan Mama and her son managed to make their journey for just 40,000 yuan, about $5,800. So, how did they do it? Here's a breakdown of their successful strategy. Firstly, they meticulously planned and treated the entire process as a travel adventure. Their route took them from China to Osaka, Japan, then on to enjoy a few days in Nara and Kyoto. Next, they flew to Jeju Island in Korea, returned to Osaka, flew to Tokyo, and then from Tokyo's Narita Airport to Mexico City. There, they visited the Sun and Moon Pyramids, second in fame only to Egypt's pyramids, before flying to Tijuana and crossing into the U.S. border. Secondly, they leveraged a unique visa policy. Possessing a 3-year Japanese visa enabled them visa-free entry into Mexico. Plus, having 2 prior entries into Japan for tourism purposes qualified them for this 3-year Japanese visa. Thirdly, they made sufficient preparations, including updating passport visas, creating detailed travel plans in English and Spanish, and compiling proof of their children's school enrollment, asset evidence, and necessary paperwork for entry into Mexico, a substantial pile of documents. Lastly, they were fully psychologically prepared to leave the Chinese Communist Party. Tiantan Mama commented, "The journey wasn't fraught with major hardships or dangers. What was essential was a courageous and resolute heart." She spoke of her focus shift from her child's education to the political climate, a realization that took years. Finally, with her son now 11, they embarked on this path, doing it all for her child, yet feeling a sense of guilt towards her parents back in China. This raises a question: what circumstances compelled them to take this route? As new immigrants, they'll undoubtedly face numerous challenges, including adapting to new languages, finding work, and settling into a different lifestyle. The line crossing might not be a suitable option for everyone. Nonetheless, let's hope they quickly grow to love their newfound freedom. U.S.-China economic decoupling is not so easy. Both Washington and American business sectors are seeking some level of decoupling from China's economy, but the process is proving more challenging than anticipated. This is the central argument of the article "Decoupling from China is Not So Easy," written by Mr. Milton Ezrati, a chief economist for Vested, a New York-based communications firm, and published on December 28. In the article, Mr. Ezrati delves into the difficulties both Washington and American businesses face in their attempts to reduce dependency on China. The Biden administration's focus is on national security and responding to the pressure from significant interest groups. The administration has maintained Trump-era tariffs on Chinese imports, restricted exports of advanced semiconductors to China, limited investment in Chinese technology, and denied tax credits for electric vehicles made in China or with significant Chinese parts. American businesses, while sharing some concerns with Washington, are motivated by different factors like rising production costs in China. Chinese wages have risen more rapidly than elsewhere in Asia and Latin America, diminishing the country's role as a low-cost manufacturing hub. Businesses are also concerned about the reliability of Chinese suppliers, especially following disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic and the zero-COVID policy. Moreover, during the emergency, Beijing banned the export of certain critical products, notably medicinal inputs and surgical masks. If these failures are understandable, American businesses want to avoid such problems in the future. Still, more recently, Chinese leader Xi Jinping's obsession with national security has made it more difficult for foreigners to operate in China. On the surface, it appears as though these shared interests are making significant progress. According to the Bureau of the Census, Chinese products amounted to 22% of all U.S. imports in 2017, whereas so far this year, they amounted to only 13%. But these otherwise striking figures disguise some practical difficulties with the decoupling effort. The problem is that Americans, when moving their sourcing to Vietnam, Indonesia, or even Mexico, are discovering that the best facilities there are often Chinese-owned. It seems that when the Trump administration first imposed tariffs, many Chinese firms set up facilities in other countries to avoid the levy. Although ownership isn't crucial for economic relief from China's rules, it becomes significant if these facilities rely on Chinese-produced inputs, which often happens. Mr. Ezrati suggests that in time, American efforts at decoupling will overcome these impediments. As is apparent from buying and investment trends as well as attitudinal surveys, American businesses' desire to diversify away from China has staying power. American companies will continue for some time to move away from sources that retain a Chinese dependence. Meanwhile, facilities in these other countries, even those that are Chinese-owned, will, as they become more sophisticated, depend less on Chinese sources. However, he concludes that for now, the decoupling process will not be as smooth as Washington and business leaders would prefer. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.